I just got back from Hawaii with my daughter. My daughter and I did a surfing camp with Bethany Hamilton. She is the surfer in the movie Soul Surfer who lost her arm to a shark.
Oh, wow.
So what was, yeah, it was super cool. What was really awesome about it too was it was a mom and daughter mentorship program. So we spent the year, Monday nights, learning about like teen things and just talking through teen things, which I think is so important. But also then we got to spend 3 full days together like no other kids. I have 4 kids, 3 boys and her, and she's the baby. So oftentimes we don't get a lot of one-on-one time. So we are super intentional and strategic about something called the Kevin's rule. And so we spend a certain amount of time with each kiddo alone, just one-on-one, to create that connection. And she's in her teen years. She just turned 13, and it's definitely a different time frame and a different challenge than raising 3 teen boys. So I really just want to create the connection early on, and that she knows that, that we can chat through things. And and my husband took the boys fishing on Kona while we were in Kauai. So then we convened and went back to Oahu and spent some time at the beach hanging out there. So got home on Tuesday, so I'm a little time travel jet lagged, and then we're leaving for Europe in 2 weeks. So we do a lot of travel. So I think the biggest part of our transition, has been having ultimate time freedom. So
yeah, that's beautiful
been
to
great.
have that.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
That is the goal.
It is. Yeah, it is the ultimate goal.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Gold Awakening podcast with Michael Piccioni. This is episode 17, and we have Julie Roy, our first female guest, and the prettiest guest we've ever had.
Well, I'm hoping to set the bar low for y'all.
So, Julie, you're a strategic advisor, a business coach, an REI investor, a mom, a wife. There's so much to list here.
All the hats, Marcello. I'm trying to do everything over here. No, it's good.
Now
it's
an
good.
author, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I just wrote a book last month or so. It was published May. Yeah, it came out in May, so that was cool.
Nice.
Another check the box.
How was that process?
Honestly, it was grueling.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a little bit about me. I have major ADHD. Like, it's a superpower, but it's also a challenge when I'm trying to focus on one specific thing. So traditional school, we can talk about that in a little bit as well, didn't really work out for me super awesomely well, because I was always, getting the notes home. She's too social. She won't sit in her seat. She's blah, 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 and the book process is really grueling because you have to sit for periods of time and just write and like brain dump. So I have a ton of stuff in my brain. I just can't get it all on paper.
Right.
So I hired a coach, and it was 1,000 times better. Initially, I thought, I can do this on my own. No, if you are busy and entrepreneurial, it is the last priority. Even though I block time, all the things they tell you to do. It's like, write the book or whatever, do 800 other things, right. Write the book is last. Right. So we started doing appointments every Monday at noon, and we did that for 6 months, and for an hour every Monday. And I just brain dumped everything. She helped me organize, put my thoughts down, like write, refine it. And then we finished it, within about 6 months. But had I not had her, that process would have been a 2-year deal for sure. It was hard. Even like she'd text me and be like, "Are you coming on?" I'm like, "Oh yes, I'm coming." Right. Like that kind of thing. For so, sure. But I'm glad I did it. It was something that I've always wanted to do. And I also think it's a good legacy piece for our family and other families that have to refer, to the book. It's called the Multi-Million Dollar Mompreneur. And it's really about the strategic steps I took in the process of becoming an entrepreneur for the first time, learning how to be an entrepreneur, then changing the entrepreneurial life into sort of owning real estate and entrepreneurship, then switching from real estate entrepreneurship to full real estate investing. So, and just tax-wise and how to save and, just how to save to invest, not save to buy liabilities. There's just a mindset shift around money. I'm Italian. I came from immigrant parents who, my great grandparents, my noni, and my Biznoni, both of them, were in the war, right? I mean, so they came from very scarcity mindset thinking, like
Right.
save, save, save. There's one day you're going to lose everything, right? This mindset is constantly in part of who you are as you grow up. So I had to like reprogram, honestly, all of that. My mom was a single mom, 3 jobs. So we grew up on Marintet. If you're from Windsor, Ontario, like Marintet and Hannah, I went to Catholic Central. Like I was destined to not be a success, right? I mean, I had all of the things against me. And so coming from, a negative $25,000 loan to, 8-figure sales twice in 2 different companies has been, quite the process.
So
So
two
that
different.
was a long answer to the book. Sorry.
No, that was great.
No, that's great.
So you said 2 different 10-figure businesses. You were
Yeah.
involved in was it Montessori's to start? Is that what got you started? You want to get into
Yeah.
that?
So I'll tell you a little bit about how that happened. So I actually was in law school, and in my first year of university, I had an option to go play soccer in Rome, so in Italy. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do this in France. And so I started in France, sorry. So I went over there on an exchange program. Of course, I had no money. My mom had no money to pay for this. So I was like, any kind of scholarship or thing I could do to get out of here. Like my mindset was like, let's get out of here, right? So I went ahead and took that. I racked up a ton of debt because, I'm 18. I don't know how to spend money. I got credit cards now and I have no idea what I'm doing with this money. So went over to Europe, spent all kinds of money, even though a lot of it was paid for, a lot of it's not, right? You don't really realize that till you're there. And so I did that for a few years. Then I went to Rome, Sapienza, and I lived in Rome for a while. I'm actually I speak English, a little bit of Spanish, but I'm fluent in Italian and French as well. So it was
nice.
really nice and easy for us to make those transitions. And so I came home and I was finishing like my second year of law school. And I was like, I hate this. Like, if I have to do this for the rest of my life, I might kill myself. It's like so bad, right? So, and it's very dry and like not my personality at all. It's not creative. All the things like that drive me as an entrepreneur, they did not exist in law school, right? So, and I did okay. It was just not for me. And so I was working at a Montessori preschool at Massey High School, before and after school program, trying to fund this, like paying my mom back everything I owed her because she's trying to make it basically. And so I fell in love with this Montessori program. And I was like, my gosh, at some point, I always knew I wanted to be a mom. I always knew I wanted 4 kids. Like I had these targets all the time, even as a little girl, like all these things I wanted to reach. I wanted to be a millionaire in the hood, right? Like what a crazy target. Not I want to make $100,000. Like I want to be a millionaire, right? So anyways, so strategically, I was like, you know what? I'm going to work here. And eventually when I have kids, I want them to go to Montessori. I love that it's like very inquisitive style of learning, that they can like learn what they love, that's following the child rather than like being stuck in this, because I had issues, right? Being stuck in that public school domain where it was like, you have to learn this at this time. This is how long you spend on this subject, blah, blah, blah. So I just wished in my little brain at that time that, man, if I had this when I was young, how much more awesome would I be, right? And I thought, no, I don't care what it costs. I'm going to have my kids go here at some point. And so started to fall in love with this program. And I thought, you know what? I really want to do this. And I thought, oh gosh, this is going to be horrible because my parents are going to be like, this, you can be a lawyer or a doctor if you're Italian. I mean, this is what it is, right? You have to be better than they were. So I'm like, So I went home one day and I was like, oh, so I quit law school and I'm going to be a preschool teacher. And my mom just like, I remember her face and she was like, so you're going to babysit? And I was like, no, it's not babysitting, And I remember when I took her to the school, and I'll tell you how I got there, but she came in and she said, oh, I thought I was going to come in. It was going to be a disaster. Kids running everywhere. She's like, these kids are all like learning and they're smart and they're sitting down. And I was like, yeah, I was like praying, please don't and she was always very supportive. But I think in their hearts and minds, it was like, we don't want you to struggle. Like my mom worked 3 jobs, man. She was a single mom. She worked from 7 a.m. in the morning till 10 p.m. at night. I had a little key around my neck. I had my brother with me 24/7. I was getting food from the grocery store, Shinkariel at the time, down the street, because sometimes my mom wasn't home, or we forgot, we didn't get groceries, or we didn't have stuff, or they used to feed us panini in the back door. Like, I'm not kidding you, right? So it was a different life. And I think she just wanted so much for us, right? And so, I mean, we are here because of her efforts, 1000%. So I'm very, very grateful, you know, to her for her work ethic. But I wanted more, and she wanted more for us too. So long story short, I had no money. I had no credit. I had a disastrous beginning, but I wanted this school. I started to grow this women's school. We started adding classrooms in Massey High School. I was touring parents. I loved it. It was giving me like such a high, this entrepreneurial vibe. So I was like, I want to do this for myself. Summertime, Montessori's closed, right? So I said, I'm going to put this in my mom's basement in the summer, have these kids come to me, and I'm just going to run my own little program and see how this goes. Went to the dollar store, bought all the materials. I literally didn't have any money to set up a classroom. It was in my mom's basement behind her house. She had a park. That was recess. Down the street was a cemetery. That was recess. We played all over. It didn't matter. These families were, you know, South Windsor families. If you know anything about Windsor, they were kind of like the higher end families at the time. They brought their kids all the way to Marintet every day to have Miss Julie, you know, come. And it was only 13 kids at the beginning, you know. And then at the end of the summer, my mom was like, listen, girl, this can't happen in here anymore, because the liability, like, you're cooking for these kids. You've got all these kids running around. She's like, it's my house. It's all like, this is what she worked her whole life for. Right. So I was like, shit, what am I going to do now? Right. So I found this ad in the paper. This is how old I am. It said like, need money for real, you know, for business investments, apply here. And I was like, well, you know, it's better than what I have now. So I called him up, and he was like, yeah, meet me downtown across from McDonald's on Wyandotte. There was this little alley. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But like, oh, listen, like, even in the book, I was like, it's like kind of a Stephen King situation. Yeah. So I called Bo, my husband now is my boyfriend, and I was like, listen, I got to go do this. I think maybe you should come, because I'm not quite sure, like, I'm getting this vibe. And, you know, when you live in the hood, you get the vibe. And I was like, I'm getting this vibe that, like, I'm not sure if I should go on my own. So he was like, okay, totally, I'll come with you. So we literally opened, it's this like burgundy door, like think old school. We opened this creaky door. There's this guy behind this desk. It's like dark. It has a hanging light, you know, like, I mean, I'm giving you all the vibes here. And he's sitting behind the desk, and he's like, Julie, you know, we have this proposal for you. 19% for a $25,000 loan. And I was like, I'm taking it. Done. Sold. And he was like, okay. And he, his name was Malcolm Banks, and I didn't think anything of it. That's how naive I was. Like, whose name is Malcolm Banks? That's not real. Yeah. I totally was like, Malcolm's awesome. Right. So then he looks at my husband at the time, Bo, right. And he says, okay, so FYI, we can do this loan, but like, I need you to co-sign, because he at the time was doing an internship. He's a child psych. So he was doing an internship in Michigan. So he had some money coming in, like enough to be like, okay, we could pay this monthly. I think it was $500 at the time, like with plus the 19%. So he could cover it. I couldn't cover it with my ratio or whatever. So he looks at me like, what the heck, girl? Like, and he says to Bo, if she doesn't pay for this loan, like, we're coming for you. Like, literally coming for you. And he's like, Bo's like, what are we doing? And I'm like, yep, he's fine. He's going to sign this loan. We're going to get this done. So he signs, we get in the car, and he's like, what the heck did we just do? I said, don't worry about it. I got you. If I have to work 3 jobs to get this $500 payment done, I knew I had it in me that I would work. I mean, I've worked at 3-4 places at once my whole life, right? I dug graves at Heavenly Rest. Like, I was a landscaper at Heavenly Rest, right? So like, I've done whatever it takes. And I think that's the difference, right? I knew in my mind, I was committing to this loan with the absolute, like, there wasn't a doubt in my mind I wasn't going to be able to pay this.
Julie, what was the loan for? Was it like 20 grand?
So yeah, I needed $25,000. And what I needed it for was to buy the materials for 1 classroom, like 1 full set. So like, I needed the desks, the chairs, the food supplies to start with, the classroom Montessori materials, all the wooden materials. And then I needed like a computer. I didn't even have a computer, like nothing. I needed a computer, a phone, a fax, like literally. I was in the basement of St. Paul's Church. They let me come in and borrow the space. It was $1,500 a month at the time. And I had to go set the classroom up every morning and take it all down at the end of the day so that they could have karate and brownies and all kinds of stuff in it afterwards. That's how we started. So very, very like startup. I mean, worse than startup.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so we started there. We quickly grew the program. I paid Malcolm back in the first 12 months. So Bo was happy and relieved. And, I didn't make a ton of money for myself for probably a couple years, honestly. I think I started making my money, like anything I could take out of the business, around year 3. But after the first year, we grew from 13 kids to 75. We were busting out. We were like classroom after classroom in that church, and there was no room. There was no more room.
Right.
So I was like, what are we going to do? And so we ended up finding a small plaza on Grand Maris, right across from Christ the King School, which I thought was great because we could have feeder kids. If moms had to drop off kiddos, they'd have babies. Long story short, we moved into that plaza. We took 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, 4 units, the behind units. We started to create this just more and more classrooms. It became really popular. People were waitlisting for us. And so then we bought real estate. We partnered with Rosati, who was a huge instrument to our success. I still credit, the dad was so helpful, and both Tony and Nick, yes, they helped us so much. They gave us money in the beginning. We partnered with them. They created a situation for us where we could partner, still own the building, but we would come together for the deposit, and then I paid him out.
Gotcha.
And so because he knew, his kids came to our school, right? And he loved it. He loved what we were doing. But for a business owner to help another business owner at that time wasn't really something people did, right? So they really believed in me. And so I really thank them all the time for that. Then we started expanding. We built in LaSalle, in Lakeshore, and, this huge school in South Windsor. And we had a lot of people help us along the way. Absolutely. It was a collaborative community project, I call it. And then we got to the point where we were, kind of monopolizing, I would say, the Montessori area in Windsor. And then in Windsor, LaSalle, Lakeshore, and surrounding. And then I was like, this is awesome. We started making money. And all that time, by the way, I had a new baby every single time we opened a new school. So I had 4 kids under 6. And my husband was still doing interning, right? And trying to get his PhD done. And he was doing exams while I'm watching babies, while I'm opening schools. So it was, I don't even know sometimes how we did it, but I think we're both committed to our success equally though. And so the partnership between a husband and wife, if you're doing an entrepreneurial venture, is really important, right? That respect and support, because I could not have done it on our own. And all of our family, my Nona watched those kids every morning. I literally had my baby on Friday night, Xavier, who's my oldest. He was born at 4:20. Crazy, I know. And then on April 19th, it almost was 4:20, which we were like, what the heck is going on? So we had him on 4:19 at 4:20. In the morning, I woke up. I did payroll on my lap. We went to the school on Sunday before we went home. I had 0 maternity leave. I have never had 1 day of maternity leave, ever. So those kids came with me in the office. Then they went to my Nona's as soon as as soon as I started working every day, all day. They went to my Nona's. My Nona watched me, my brother, all my cousins. Now she was watching all my kids, my Nono and Nona. And and my mom was helping me in the office. My dad, Bo's dad, my brother, all of them were building materials and shelving and cubbies for us. It was a family affair initially, right?
Yeah, you had a big support group, with this.
I just wrangled. Yeah. I wrangled everybody that I could in. I was anybody that would help, but we were very blessed with even friends Melissa Maddox, all kinds of people that would help fill in if I needed a teacher. We just had it was awesome. The community really embraced the whole program. And
awesome.
Then we had an investor, a private equity company, call us. And I was like, no, I'm not interested. I don't want to sell. This took me 10 years, right? Grinding and all these babies and all the things. And they gave us an offer, and I was like, no, I don't want, I'm not selling. And then
why didn't you sell? The money wasn't there, or you weren't ready to leave?
Well,
the
I wasn't
business?
ready. And honestly, it was my baby. It was literally like, I felt like the same as I felt about my kids, about these businesses. I had like grown
Gotcha.
and
Yeah.
nurtured them and put so much time and effort and like spent so much time away from my own babies to raise these schools. Right. So it's kind of like, it was always a challenge being a mom too. Right. Because there is no such thing as work life balance. Like that's bullshit. People that say that, I'm like, y'all are nuts. Like that doesn't happen. It was about harmony as much as we could create between us, the family, the kids. Always at the end, the goal was for them. I mean, this is what we do it for, right? But there's a lot of time you spend away as a mom,
For sure.
so you have to be okay with that, right? And
Yeah.
so these schools finally got to what I felt was the pinnacle of success, like 10 locations, real estate. We were in a good position, right? And Bo was done his school. He had a huge practice. He was working. We were like, okay, this is it, right? Like for me, coming from where I came from, I had made my $1 million mark, right? I was like, I am successful. Like this is great, right? And then they came to us with an offer again a month later. And I was like, these people are relentless. Like, what is it? And the offer kept getting better, right? So now I'm starting to be like, oh, I don't want to sell, but like what I could give my kids and the life that this could be literally a trajectory changing experience for not only me, for our entire legacy, like my kids, their kids. So then I was like, this is really selfish for me not to think about this.
Right.
So I came home and I was like, Bo, like, what do you think? And he's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know. So I left it. I said, you know what? If I'm not sure, I'm not ready. Another month goes by, another letter, increased amount. I was like, well, I guess if I keep waiting, this is going to keep going up. Well, finally, they give you an ultimatum, right? Like, hey, are you going to share out of the pot? Because we're going to the next person, right?
Yeah.
So my idea was also like, I didn't know how big they were going to get. And if they were going to choose like, there was a couple other bigger providers of childcare, not Montessori per se, in our town. Like if they came in and started monopolizing, like that would also be a partial threat possibly.
Sure.
So I was like trying to evaluate all of the things, both positive and negative. And then they just really gave me an offer I couldn't refuse at the end.
Nice.
But I couldn't believe it, really. I was like, this is bull. Like this isn't gonna happen, you
So
know?
were
So
you like McDonald's? Did you own the real estate of all these business? There was 10, right?
yeah,
And
yeah. So
you own the business, like not just the
yeah.
business name, but the real estate part of it as well.
Yeah, so I owned all the businesses and then we bought all the real estate. So what
Yeah.
happened was there wasn't 10 at the end of the grouping, because what happened is we started to like conglomerate. Like in South Windsor, we didn't own the plaza, right? But we had like 8 units. But then that we moved into a 22,000 square foot building that I owned, right?
Okay.
Then the one in Lakeshore we owned, the one in LaSalle we owned. So at the end, and then we had a not-for-profit Casa dei Bambini. So at the end, there wasn't 10 locations, but there was the equivalent of 10 locations of capacity, which means like the number of kids that we were serving. And we owned all this like huge real estate now, right? Like 10,
Amazing.
12, 22,000 square feet. So it wasn't just like little 1200s. We're
Right,
talking
right.
about,
It's awesome.
100,000 square feet of real estate or something. So initially when they approached me though, they didn't want the real estate, because
Really?
most private equity companies, they want to buy to create situations that they can buy the business and keep capital, right? Because for them, the expansion of the operations gives them the higher percentage of return, and
Right.
private equity investors want 30% returns.
Yeah.
Right.
20 to 30. They're not looking for like real estate 10 to 12% return.
Right.
And also, if they buy too much real estate, it slows down their growth.
Right.
And they're really, really pushing for growth at this point, right? So, because they're expanding their profile across Canada. So I was like, they were going to rent. So we always did sale leasebacks, which was me owning the real estate. I created a secondary holding company called Roy Holdings. We leased from ourselves. So Roy Holdings leased to Montessori, like TCH Montessori, but I was the end user of both. And we created a management company that TCH paid for. And I also ran all my payroll through there, my kids, like all of our stuff through the management company. So it wasn't taxable on the payroll side. There's a whole bunch of tax stuff that goes with this, and you learn as you go. I got better in the States on the second time. But long story short was we did sale leasebacks, which started my love for triple net, because I was like, whoa, like this is a passive income dream. Like I sit here, I'm getting passive income. I'm not doing anything. It's triple net. The school was paying for expenses, taxes, insurance, all of it. So they were renting from us the first 18 months. And then I was like, you know what? I can't really control the operations here. I'm going to sell this to a real estate investor. So we brought it to CBRE, and Brooke Handysides at the time helped me. He's probably still in doing the same thing. Yeah. And so he said, Julie, well, let's put a portfolio together and let's find a buyer. So he found a buyer, probably a guy my age. I thought he was an old man then, but he was probably my age, probably in his 50s or 60s. He grabbed the real estate because what was awesome about it was I created 15-year triple net leases with this new private equity company, this entity that was renting from us. So it had an incredible NOI and not net operating income. It had stability. I think it was 12 or 15-year leases that were probably like 13 years when he bought, right? From a company that was now corporate guaranteed, not Mom and Julie Pop, right? Like now you have a corporate entity. So that increased the value of all of our real estate tenfold. So we sold the real estate after that for quite a nice capital exit. And then I retired for the first time and drove everybody crazy. And my husband was like, yeah, you need to get a job. So then I went into long-term care, did all that, but it was super sad. I helped open the St. Clair College long-term care program. I was the general manager there for quite some time. And then I was like always sad and crying because everybody kept dying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like the opposite of what I'm used to, these kids running around in life. And so I started looking for schools to buy, and there was nothing. It was 2011, 2012, 2013. Michigan hadn't recovered because I was thinking, well, I'll just commute. No big deal. Ohio wasn't, doing much either around that time. I couldn't do Canada because I had a non-compete in pretty much all of Canada except Saskatchewan. Like I'm telling you, places I'd never go, right? And I also had 4 kids, right? So there was like a lot of family dynamics. So I thought, well, I needed somewhere that I could commute to and be back within an hour or so if need be for the kids, right? So long story short, I went through tons of like LOIs and looking for stuff. And I also needed a net operating income that made sense for me, right? Like I needed an EBITDA to make sense for me to leave these kids to create this situation. Long story short, a broker sends this deal through my desk. I look at it. I'm like, this is good. Like, I like the numbers. She was Montessori. She was 84. She had a legacy program. She had been open 54 years here in Omaha, Nebraska. That's where I'm at. I called it Oklahoma for the 6 months, had no idea where I was moving to, got an apartment. And every Monday through Thursday, I bought the schools. Every Monday through Thursday, I was in the States and then went home Friday, Saturday, Sunday, prepared everything, got everything ready for the kids, left again on Monday. So it was not without a lot of effort.
Right.
In the second year, we started just buying more and more schools here in Omaha. We started to do the same thing we did in Canada. I just started to basically create this monopoly, and owners were coming to us. Hey, can you buy our school? Do you want to buy our school too? Do you want my school too? And so we ended up with 10 full locations with, thousands of kids. But I did that in less than 3 years.
No way.
So
amazing.
So by 2019, I brought all the family here. Like Bo closed his practice. He retired. He was like, I said, look, like if we're going to do this and we're going to elevate together, I need your help here. Like I can't do this forever. And we were expanding, right? It was more and more of my time. At first, 3 days is okay. And then 4, and then I'm like spending more time here than there. And the kids are crying. Look, there's so much stuff going on. So he was like, hell no, like if you want to do this, let's go. So we sold our house in Lakeshore. We had just finished renovating all of it and left our friends, left our family, came here with nobody, like zero support. So Bo really stepped up and did all the house stuff. Like he became the guy, the dad, the man, like he did everything. So he brought the kids everywhere. He managed everything. And we were able to grow the portfolio within 3 years. And he would do all the back end school stuff too, like all the IT, anything the girls needed, running around, all the things. So long story short, we finished on 2020 May, our 10th school. I did my final, what I call like my passion project. We turned this big alumni environment that the university had. It was a big, like, looked like Hogwarts. I changed it into this really cool Montessori preschool. And we had just finished the renovations May 1st. And they had been calling me for, like, private equity had been calling me for about 6 months. And I was like, no, like, I'm not done. I want to create these 10 schools. And I just moved up my whole family here. My kids hated me. My 2 older ones had such a hard time. They left in top of 7th and top of 8th grade. They were huge fish in Windsor. They were like, their schools here have 2,000 kids. Like, they really lost their identity. We had to work through a lot of stuff with them. And I was like, no, I'm not ready. Again, they offered me. And then I said, no, like, I'm not done till May. Like, I have this 10th school. I'm finishing this project. Cause like, this was all through COVID, right? I had to reformulate our whole business because they had closed us. Then they put all these parameters on us. And I quickly went, like, one day I remember they said, oh, we're closing all the schools down. And I thought, I have 300 and some staff, almost 400 staff, 1,200 kids. And they're like, you can't open. And I was like, hell no, I'm opening. I don't care. Like, I have expenses, right? I have all these things. And I thought, either I'm opening or we're going bankrupt. Like, there's no option here. So I told my husband, I'm going downstairs. I'm not coming up until I have a solution. And I went downstairs and literally for 24 hours cried, screamed, worked through all these scenarios, came up and was like, we're offering emergency care to all COVID providers. So I called the state and I was like, we're going to offer care for all of the nurses, doctors, the COVID hospital here. We have a huge COVID research hospital here. We have an infectious disease hospital. So they treated Ebola here in Omaha. It's crazy. So, and we can talk about all the COVID stuff later. But my point was, I'm not having this government shut me down and we got to keep working. So, so we were only closed for a total of 7 days and quickly reformulated, opened up with whatever parameters they needed in place. And we actually did the best year revenue-wise we ever did through COVID. Wow. We actually had 250 kids on the wait list when we sold.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. So we sold in 2020. I finished May 1st. May 28th, we closed on the deal with them. Same thing. Amazing. So they bought all the business. Private equity bought all the businesses. And then I sold all of the real estate to a REIT with a 15-year triple net lease in place because
nice.
You learn more as you go. And so then in the States, what's awesome is there's so many tax incentives here. Like Canada, like, I love y'all, but it's impossible to do business in Canada. Like, I'll just tell you, it's really hard to become successful and have money in Canada. Like, I love it. I love the vibe, the people, like, y'all are so nice, right? But to run a business, it's like, my parents were entrepreneurial. They had a hardware store. They lost everything in the recession. Then my parents split. My brother has a company. My dad's had companies. It's hard. It's just hard. You cannot make what you make here. They don't have incentives for entrepreneurs. They don't have the same tax benefits. So we had to learn a lot when we came here because we were like, we just pay taxes. Like, that's what we do, right? We're just entrepreneurs. We just give away half our money. And then I started going to these groups with billionaires and they were like, what are you doing, Julie? Like, why are you paying all these taxes? And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, what's the alternative? And they were like, oh, you can do this. You can do that. I was like, is that legal? Like, that'd never be legal in Canada. So when we sold the company, we did the private equity part. The rest went to the real estate. We were able to take all that money and we did something called a 1031. You don't have it in Canada, but you can take all that money and invest it in another like-kind real estate with no tax capital, like no tax on that. So that was like millions of dollars. Wow. And we took that and we bought a huge portfolio of triple net. So we own a bunch of Starbucks. We own Taco Bells. Really? We own all kinds of stuff. But we don't own the business. We own all of the land.
Even better.
We only own the land and the buildings. And so they pay us monthly. Every month, my bank account fills up on the first of the month with everybody's rent. And we live 100% passively. So I was like, this is incredible. Like, boom, like, this is it. Now we've made it, right? Until I got my tax bill. Oh, and then the tax bill was like 600 or 700 grand. And I was like, but we knew that. So we have a tax strategist. We meet with them quarterly. So they were like, this is what you're going to owe. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Do you owe money on passive income? Like, why? I'm thinking, what would that be? So he's like, yeah, like it's just like income. But he's like, there's some ways you can eradicate that in the US. Anyways, I started going to these groups with millionaires, billionaires. They were like, Julie, buy multifamily properties, buy apartment buildings, buy oil and gas, or buy agriculture. Those things will absolutely eradicate all the tax that you have from your passive income. So we started buying apartment buildings. So we own about 600 million now in multifamily, which is syndicated with partners. That's not all ours. That's our syndicated portfolio. Then we own our own portfolio, which is the triple net stuff. But the syndicated portfolio created something called negative K1s, or tax advantages for us. So we kind of call it like this little cloud of negative K1s. So when you invest in the States, especially starting 2 years ago, it was 100%. So if I invested $100,000, I would get approximately $100,000 off my taxes. So as long as I was investing in multifamily real estate, which was fine because it is also income producing, it gives you the tax benefit, and then it gives you a bang on the sale, a multiple at the end. So it was either me paying the government $700,000 a year, or me reinvesting $700,000, taking the chance that that investment would make me cash flow, would create some kind of appreciation, and then have a multiple on sale, or just giving this money away. I was like, hell no, I'm not giving it to IRS. So I keep investing. So we have this thing called a triad strategy. So we buy triple net for income. So that's what fuels our income. That's what we live off. That's what we travel on. And then the multifamily eradicates all the tax. So we have a tax-free lifestyle. And then we do a little bit of investing in storage, industrial, car wash, things like that are longer term, a little more risky, but it's a small part of our portfolio. So we have a bit of a diversified portfolio. So that's where we are now. So this is how we're living. That's our trifecta strategy.
Well, congratulations. That's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
That's incredible. So good for you.
It's amazing how you sowed 10 schools in Canada. Then you replicated the same formula in the US, which was probably 10 times more the profit than you did here.
Bigger.
I can imagine. It's amazing. And kudos to you for going strong. You're like the female Dana White during COVID. The UFC was the only sport that was going through COVID. And
funny that you mentioned Dana White. I
really like that about you.
I love Dana, and my mentor, I pay a ton of money for mentorships. And I think that is one of the most important things I did. It definitely scaled the ability for me to scale quickly, but it also condensed the timeline so much because they know what you don't know, right? Like they're giving you things that you don't know. And so both Dana and my mentor are Grant Cardone in that space. And so funny that we all, like I'm one-on-one with Grant. Like I just went to his office a month ago. We do one-on-one in-person meetings. And I'm actually helping him raise a bunch of money now for financial literacy for at-risk kids, because that was me. Like I would have loved to have a lot of financial literacy information earlier. So we're sponsoring his program. But besides that, he's my mentor in that space. And so it's very important. Like I pay him. I mean, he's not cheap, right? He does mentorships for $25,000 to $40,000 an hour.
Wow.
So it's like, And so
that's more than
and I do 4 a year with him. So we do once a quarter. So, but I'm telling you that people are like, well, Julie, that's a lot of money. And I said, it is, but it saved me over $700,000 already. So at the end of the day, kind of what's worth it, what's not. But, so mentorships are important is what I was going to say. And funny that Dana, it was mentioned because he's a very big, he's an advocate of 10X Health. We all do 10X Health as well. And, I'm 50 and, probably in the best shape I've been in. So take your supplements because it works. So,
good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
So what type of stuff do you do to keep in shape?
So I love to I would run a lot now so much. I'm trying to get more into doing more weights and things that because as we get older, we lose, especially women, we lose a lot of muscle mass. And I really want to be a good example for my kids. Right. And so they are very into fitness. My boys go to the gym like twice a day. They're like super buff. They're, you know, my daughter is also like kind of coming into that now, where she's, you know, looking at, like, we talk about strength and health, not weight. Like, I don't want it to be an issue about body image. I want her to be a strong female, period, in all things, right? Inside and out. And so, and she has 3 older brothers. So there's a lot of competition. She's trying to keep up with these, like, you know, these boys who are really into it. So yeah, I think it's more just, you know, taking care of yourself, doing, like, I do a lot of screenings. I make sure that, like, I'm on top of my health. I'm always monitoring, like, my blood levels. Grant does a lot of regenerative stuff. I haven't gotten into that stuff yet, but like, here in the States, a lot of folks do like stem cell regeneration. So they'll buy stem cells and regenerate their blood. My husband donates his blood once a month and his plasma. So he regenerates that all the time. It's really important that you don't keep old blood and old plasma and old cellular energy in your body. It's like a whole thing. So yeah, if you read anything about 10X Health, or you go online, Gary Brecka is who we okay, so we follow him a lot, and we have supplement packets that are made just for us. But there's a huge thing about cellular regeneration, and like the issue in our body is, as we get older, these cells get like deformed and they don't work as well and blah blah. So if you're dumping all old stuff a lot, your body regenerates. It takes 24 to 48 hours, and so you're also helping save other people. Like, my husband donates plasma every month. He has like an O blood type, which is super, super awesome, because he can donate. He's a universal donor. Yeah. But it's really important to know that, like, what you're doing for yourself on a daily basis too, like what you eat, what you put in your body, what you're committed to, right? For us, like, everything in my life is strategic and intentional. Like, there is nothing that happens in my life because I don't want it to. It literally, I don't know if you guys can see, but like on the wall, you see that black plaque out there?
Yep.
By the door. Okay. So that is our mission. It's our family mission, vision, values. And so when we got together, we were like, we're committed to travel. Okay, great. What's the goal? We have targets for everything. I feel like I'm like running a business in my house, but I was like, so what's the target? So our target was, we want to see all the continents together. So in December, we just finished Antarctica. We're done. We've seen all the continents with our kids.
Awesome.
Create targets for yourself, because if you're not creating targets, you're never aiming for stuff, right? So our big thing is, like, we create targets that are like impossible, and then when we achieve them, we create bigger targets, right? So so it's kind of like this continuous improvement lifestyle. We believe in something called return on life. It's not return on investment for us anymore. It takes into account who we are personally, professionally, in our marriage, in our family. Like, how does everything we do affect the moment we're in? Because we don't know if we have tomorrow. People are like, well, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. Man, that's a gamble. We don't know what we're going to have tomorrow, next week, right? So we are very much action takers. We have these targets that we follow. My son, who's 20, my son, who's 18, they all own real estate already. They own multifamily properties. Amazing. We are teaching them to save, to invest. We don't buy liabilities. If it doesn't cash flow, that's not an asset. So, like, we don't believe in buying a bunch of crap. You can buy crap with your passive income. If you're creating enough passive income where you can buy what you want, great. But if you're trying to create a life, you need to create a life that produces assets that give you money, like a house. You know, this American dream, everyone get out of college with thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, then buy a house, then buy a car because you deserve it, then buy. And at the end of the day, you're mounted in a huge insurmountable debt. People are depressed. People are suppressed because they're so stressed out about trying to make these ends meet to be who? Who cares? Nobody cares. At the end of the day, nobody gives a shit what you do, right? So buy stuff that makes you money. Give yourself freedom. Time is the only thing you can't control in your life. Like, it's the only thing you're never going to be able to control.
For sure.
You are not the master of that, right? So we believe in that. And my 20-year-old, we were just in Hawaii. He just tattooed his forearm with a saying. It's a Japanese saying. Tattoo? Oh, hell yeah. I have a whole bunch of them. Yes, I have a bunch too. But what was really awesome about my kids, specifically about this incident, we traveled the world, like I said, right? So opening their minds to what we consider classrooms without walls has been super important for us, because you don't learn life in the classroom. You just don't.
Yeah.
Schools don't teach you about life, finances, all the shit you really need to know, you don't learn in school. So we are about like, go out there, travel. Like our two littles, they're going to Oxford University for an entrepreneurial program. They're 13 and 14. We're leaving them in England.
Amazing.
Like they're going to be there for 2 weeks on their own, learning and being with other kids from all around the world. Like those are
Awesome.
experiences that are like, that are just priceless for us, right? That's where we put our money is in those experiences. But what I was saying about my 20-year-old, he got this tattoo on his forearm and he'd been thinking about it for a while. And he said, like, what do you think, Mom? I said, it has to definitely be something that you're going to be okay with in 20 years. So, think about what you want. So he came to me one day and he had these Asian characters, and I have a bunch of Asian characters as well. My husband's Hawaiian too, so I mean it does help. But and we just went to Japan last summer with them, and he said, "This is what I want." And so he came to me with these characters, and it meant, the saying is kaizen. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this. So kaizen
Japanese.
means
Yeah,
it's Japanese and it means continuous improvement. It was actually Toyota who created this culture of kaizen in their environment, and it meant we are dedicated to continuous improvement. So as a mom, my heart was like bursting, because I'm like, this is everything we keep telling them, right? Like, be continually improving yourself. And so, and when he came here, he gained a lot of weight. He wasn't happy. He was upset with, all the things that happen. He's like super fit, 6-pack. Like he's doing his 10X planner every day. He's committed to like his workouts, his eating, his goals, his targets, his financial targets every morning. Like, I kind of sneak and check it out, but it says like, I want to impact this many people. I want to make this much money. Like, he has goals, man. He's 20. Like, how many 20-year-olds? He doesn't drink. My kids don't drink. They can. We don't care.
Wow.
We don't drink. We don't drink at all. I haven't had a drink probably in 10 years.
Good for you.
I don't even care. I don't need it. I'm a little crazy anyway.
Julie, I'm going to send you Sophia for 5 years and she'll come back.
Perfect. Yeah. Zoe can use a girlfriend, so anytime. But
Julie Roy, you are on fire in every aspect of your life. Like, this is incredible. Let me ask you now that you accumulated all this wealth, do you fear the American dollar right now? Like, you have all this wealth, where the American dollar is going right now, does that put a little fear in you?
No, because I don't have money in the bank. So money in the bank, because money in the bank, people don't understand. When you have money in your bank account, like your savings account, yeah, sure, I keep some for, making sure that we have expenses covered, all the things in case something major happen. But our money is backed by real estate. That's really important for us, because real estate is a physical asset. So they can't take that from you. And real estate's always appreciating. I don't care. Even if it dips, it will reappreciate.
Yeah.
Your $100, what $100 was worth in 1970 is about like $30 right now. People don't understand that there's a huge deficit in depreciation in your money when you leave it in the bank, even at a 5% interest rate, right? Like, the money we do have is in a high yield savings account. It's always 5% or more, but it's not backed by anything, right? And so the American dollar, the Canadian dollar right now, oh my gosh, all of our investments in Canada, like I can't even take them out, because between exchange and the worthless, money now, it's like we would lose half of our savings over there. And I couldn't take a lot of it over because of the tax, right? So I'm trying to manage the Canadian side, but that's why we won't do business. Like, so many people call me too, and they're like, Julie, you want to do this with us here? I'm like, no, I don't want to do anything in Canada, man. Like, I just can't. One, because it creates an issue for us because we will be dual taxed. And two, the money right now and the way things are going for business in Canada is really stressful. I mean, I don't see it as a good environment for entrepreneurs at this time. It's just harder.
Definitely. I could agree with you 100% on that. And a lot has to do with our government, right? So, I mean, they're just scaring everybody away, like yourself, you know what I mean? Which is really sad.
We left Canada, Marcello.
We left here. We don't have that opportunity.
No, and we left Canada because we were paying, like, between Bo and I, over 70% in taxes. I mean, and with no way to eradicate that, not even reinvesting it back, right? Like, it's just hard because at some point you're working for the mass, which is fine to some degree, but we're slaying like crazy and not getting anywhere, we felt like. So definitely a little bit different over here. And I love Canada. Like I said, it will always have my heart because the country as a whole has just amazing people, right? I mean, it's just a really good country. But in terms of business, like, I feel so blessed with the opportunity that I had to come over here on an investor visa and create a life for my children and just create this trajectory that was 10 times and tenfold what we would have had the opportunity to do in Canada. We have family there that have sold businesses. We've had friends, like, they're doing fine. You can make it as an entrepreneur in Canada. It's just, it doesn't allow you the benefits that entrepreneurs have here,
Sure. And we even increased our capital gains while we're about to.
I just saw that. I think Justin, your Trudeau there, he just announced that capital gains match or whatever for owners. It's just hard, right? It's like, and I don't know what's going to happen either here. I mean, we've had some government challenges in the last couple of years as well. However, I think there is more pushback here. Like, people just don't allow things to happen. Canada's definitely more complacent. They're more people-pleasing kind of people. In the States, I find, like, people push back and they get angry and they make it heard, and they want to be represented properly. And so there is still issues, obviously, with government everywhere, right? I mean, right now we have our own current issues with interest and rates and all kinds of things. But as you know, every election year, there'll be some miraculous interest drop in the next few months here to save the day, and all the things will happen. But I'm not going to get into politics. You probably very much know which side I lean on just from all the things I talked about today. And if you're an entrepreneur, you need to lean in a certain way because you need to protect your business and your legacy and everything you've worked for. And so I think the issue in Canada is people kind of just let things happen. It's just more of a friendly country, right? Like, they're like, okay, we'll just figure it out, right? I think the US is a little more aggressive in business and in just the way that they operate. But I like both countries. They're just different.
Completely.
Yeah.
There's just more opportunity in the US. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and I'm really more excited for my kids, the opportunity that they will have being American citizens. I'm an American citizen now as well. I just got my citizenship. Yeah, so I took my test.
How long did that take, that process?
So it took me 3 years. So not bad. No, the first 18 months I was under EB2 visa, and then I applied for residency, which they gave me after 24 months. And then I could apply for citizenship one day after 3 years, and I applied that day. And I think within 6 months I had my appointment, and I had to do, study for my test and do all that. And then I had my hearing, and I passed the test in the office, and then they do a ceremony, and now I'm Americana. so I'm happy about that. Yeah. And I'm really happy for the kids because, I just think the opportunity for them, if they want it, is here. And, they can go to Canada anytime they want. If they want to go back to live, if they want to create a life there instead, that's fine. But now they have the option.
So you're keeping your citizenship in Canada as well, then?
Yeah, we've kept both. You don't have to renounce any of them, but you have to declare like what you're going to do. So we're American, and we don't have any holdings in Canada except for whatever investments that we can't, pull out yet. But eventually we won't have anything left in Canada as soon as the money, gets to a point where we're not losing half of our earnings or half of our savings there. We'll pull it out. And we will not be, real estate investors or business investors in Canada at this point. I don't see it unless something, drastically changes. We plan on buying more businesses here, helping the kids. My kids, both 18 and 20-year-old, because we travel a lot, they can't really work. Like, it's a problem because a W-2 job or 9-to-5 job, they want you to be there, right? You can't just take off time. So I believe in solutionists in my kids. And so I'm like, well, let's figure it out. What are you going to do? And so they created a company. So they started this summer. Their company's called Mulch Moguls. They did the name, they registered the business, they registered the LLC, they created an EIN. They started going out. They advertised on Facebook in our neighborhood, like, we'll do your mulch, we'll do your lawns, we'll do your edging, we'll do your hard work. You want a day off, we'll do the heavy lifting. And so people just call them for everything. A lady called them yesterday to go pick up a swing at Costco and bring it back to her, $50.
Nice.
Awesome.
But you know what? These kids are making $50 an hour. Yeah. And like, I said, you know what? You guys could work 9 to 5 because they've always worked. They had McDonald's, Carrabba's, during school, right? Sure. They work. But they're like, we have to do something ingenuitive and out of the box because we're not going to be here. Like, we're here only for a couple weeks, this much time, and then a couple weeks at the end of summer. So they pack it all in, and they've been working like every day. They've had jobs. Like, and I said, where are you going to make $50 an hour? So they split it between the two of them, but still $25 an hour at 18 years old. Like, it's not a bad deal. Sure. And they get all the write-offs. They're buying equipment, they get write-offs for their Jeeps and their gas. They're learning all these things. And what's more important to me, besides the money, is the opportunity for them to communicate with people. Because everybody's like this all the time, all their friends. Nobody knows how to talk to anybody. Yeah. I expect them to be good humans. And by being good humans, that means you got to make good decisions. You have to have conversations with people. You have to know how to talk to people. You have to figure shit out in life. You have to be solutionists. Like, what are you going to do when stuff happens? You don't figure that out when your nose is in your phone 24/7. So it's pushed them, especially the second one's shyer. He's quieter. It's pushed him to have to correspond with people, pick up the phone, go for quotes, knock on people's door, ask for money, tell them what you're doing. I think this experience has been probably the better than any school they could have ever done, sure. So I just think, always push your boundaries, always become uncomfortable. That's how you grow and you learn in life. And whether you're 15 or 58, I don't care. Do something, you wouldn't do, push yourself to do it. For sure.
Julie, Mike, obviously you know the show. Michael is a precious metals expert on gold and silver. You've been rubbing elbows with millionaires and billionaires. Is anybody in that field, precious metals? Is it getting bigger? Did you come across?
So lots of folks are in more mining of them, like mining of precious metals. Also oil and gas, because there's a lot of depreciation. So more so than buying gold bars, silver bars, coins, they're into the mining side of it, creating and buying syndications in mining. And so we have a few syndications we belong to that do mining. Those are things that sort of have come up. There's a little more risk in them. You can buy actual mining sites versus there's two ways to buy it. There's a little safer way and then a little riskier way. But at the end of the day, the depreciation that you get from it is what people are after. And so you do get quite a bit of depreciation. The other thing, in the States, there's a lot of ways to even eradicate your active income. So in Canada, the only way you can really eradicate business or active income, like money that you make from offering a service or from working, the only way where you can really eradicate that is to get your bottom line down, right? Well, in the States, there's ways to invest in things, and that will cut your bottom line by 30%. Or there's things called conservation easements that if you donate to charity, you get 5 times the depreciation off your taxes. There's different things you can do. So people are more apt to do the mining, those types of things for the tax eradication, even more so than the ability to create the income from it, right? I think there's a little bit of a mindset shift. The income comes more from stabilized sources like triple net, business, real estate investing. And then the tax is where we get really creative here. There's a lot more creativity around eradication of tax because they always say here, the billionaires say, the first 6 pages of the tax code are what everybody knows, and it's how to pay the taxes, and the other 600 is how not to. And so if you don't find someone that really understands and knows the tax code, you really lose out, right, on a lot of that. So yeah, so to your point, there is some mining stuff for sure, and some precious metal stuff happening here too. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Mining companies are like ridiculously beat up right now. They're so cheap.
Yeah.
So cheap. I mean, some of these.
Texas.
Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's a lot of opportunity in the mining companies for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a question for you.
Sure.
Real estate, because obviously that's your bread and butter. That's
Yeah.
where you see most opportunity. Do you? So again, I know you said long term real estate's always going to be good, but are you concerned with like a 10, 15-year lull? Like that doesn't.
No.
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 So
Honestly, I'm telling you, even right now, where everyone's like, oh my gosh, the rates, blah, blah, blah. So even with the rates at what they are, the inventory is low. Like
true.
we have more people than housing in the US, number one. So like that's never going to go away,
Yeah.
or not for quite some time.
Sure.
That land is finite. We're not going to continue to have land and land and land to build on. So like once that land is gone, imagine how much more your real estate's even going to be worth. That's why we're really big into buying land and building, because even if these we own a bunch of Starbucks, right? We have a corporate triple net lease. So if they don't like the area we're in, for example, like we have one like a mile here, I actually support my tenants every day. But if you own that Starbucks, the corporate guarantee allows you to basically, if they want to move, say they want to go across the street, that's fine. They still have to pay you the 10-year lease that they promised you, unless they closed every Starbucks in the United States.
Right.
So there's for me, there's a lot of certainty. And we also buy now any of our syndications, we buy cash. So we don't even use any debt. So the bank there's nothing, no one can come to me and say, we want this land, or guess what, now this loan is this much, or you're not meeting DSCR. Our old stuff we did buy with debt, which I kind of regret now, but it is what it is. But right now, because the debt back then was cheap as well. So we leveraged a lot, right? Now the debt is not cheap. So when people say, are you worried about real estate? No, I'm not. Historically, if you look at real estate, it's only gone up, even with lulls or dips. At the end process has always gone up. So like what a house used to be 20, 30 years ago, like my grandma, for example, I mean, she's been in her house forever. She's 94. She lives off Erie. Her house was probably 30 grand when she bought it. It's going to sell for 200,000-300,000 now, maybe more, probably more. I'm probably 400 in Canada now. I don't even know. But so the appreciation on land and building, I don't ever see historically creating such a lull that an investment in real estate would be an issue. Now, in Canada, the issue is you can't buy this kind of real estate. Like you can't buy a Starbucks. There's not even an opportunity. Like I bought 5 last year here. I have them in all the states. Like we have real estate in like 12 or 13 states. Like it's easy here. Like if I want today, I could call someone and be like, hey, I actually have a Starbucks under LOI as we're speaking right now. Like the developers will call me and be like, hey, what do you want? So like they're constantly building here. Like this developer is building 5. This developer I talked to that I just LOI'd a Starbucks under, he has 5 that he's building in the next 6 months in Omaha, like in my area. Like it's just a different whole thing. Like I was looking for someone in Canada, one of my clients, they were like, hey, because I do wealth masters programs. So I teach high net wealth individuals that have businesses. We coach them into scaling and then creating legacy wealth. Like I only take a small boutique. There's only 12 business owners a year I take because I want to give back. I believe in generosity. I believe our generosity got us here. I feel like we were super blessed by that and we want to give back. But I was looking for them. I couldn't even find anything for them to buy in Canada. I was like, dude, I don't even know what to tell you. Like, so then they invested in my stuff here because I was like, at least invest here so you could start to make some income. But it's just not available. It's just different. What do you
think I think in Windsor, I don't think there's been a new commercial development plaza built, and I don't even know how many. Like, what do you think the reason for that is? You just think it's government regulation and taxes, or what do you like?
Well, I also think that like people can't make as much money. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't see the amount of millionaires here. It's like there's a millionaire every couple houses here. And I know that I'm living in a specific area. I'm not in tune to that, of course, but I feel like the opportunity to become a millionaire is greater in the US because of the opportunity. I also think in Canada, there's been this long, first of all, it starts in the schools. I mean, like, let's go to the very basic point here. From when you're young, you're trained to be a worker. Schools were institutionalized to create factory workers. They want sheep, not shepherds. Shepherds are problems. Black sheep are problems. They want people that are going to, and I love teachers, and I come from an educational background, and I have the utmost respect. My in-laws are teachers. But the way the public school is today is not serving our kids. It's just not. My daughter is homeschooled. She is part of a program that is a hybrid program. We meet kids from all over the world once a month. We create, it's called Leadership Learning Opportunities. She's with them for 4 days. They're solutionists. They're traveling all around the city. New York is September. Quebec is October. She creates her own schedule. She picks what she wants to learn. When we're put in a public situation, we're creating a certain mass of people that are needed for jobs, for W-2 jobs, right? For the 9-to-5 workers. And I'm not cutting up 9-to-5. I think we do need those people. We need people to run things that are 9-to-5. But if you want to be exceptional or out of the box, the public school system is not going to create that. It's not creating those individuals. So if you're starting from the very base of our concerns or issues, societally, our schools are not conducive to out-of-the-box learning or growth. Right. They're conducive to a certain, they were made for factory workers. 100%. That's the whole idea. If you read history, schools were based on the fact that they needed to teach people how to work in the factories. So it was very linear, very delineated learning. And we're still doing the same thing. When kids can learn 500 things a minute on YouTube now, like, why do you think they want to sit in a classroom and try to read a textbook that has nothing to do with their life? Like, it's really challenging. I mean, I had a hard time then. Now I would be done. I don't even think I'd be able to make it to school.
I know, no chance. So, it's a question for you. So what did your kids, what did your kids do? Because, I mean, obviously there's homeschooling, there's unschooling, and then there's obviously, so, I mean, what did your kids do during this whole?
So they Montessori schooled for a long time, right? And so that's already out of the box. Then we went to public school because that's what we did, right? Yeah, we were in Canada. We were in public school. We put them in French, so they had an extra language. We were trying to, like, anything that could add to it. But I also didn't know what I knew then. Like, I feel like I've matured as a mom as well, right? I mean, like, I'm older now. If I could do it again, I absolutely would do everything. Lots of things different, but I don't live in the past. Like, my rear view mirror is small for a reason. My windshield is huge for a reason. So we're constantly looking forward and making changes as we see fit, as we learn more, right? So as long as we're not just not doing things because it's always the way we've done them. So, like, Zoe's our last one, but we've known way more in the past, 5-6 years than we knew with the boys. Gotcha. We don't encourage college. I'm like, if you want to go to college, you can go to college. But if you're going to go to college, you're going to learn shit that's that you can implement. You're not going to go to college and, I'm sorry, do humanities or something. You can learn that online for free. Like, we're not paying for that. So my second kiddo is in pre-med. He's in, he goes to college. He's in pre-med. He's got a business on the side. He's working. But I'll tell you, he watches us. He hears us. He learns the stuff we're talking about. And he's more and more moving away from that because he's like, I'm going to make 200 grand, go to school for 14 years. He's like, I can make 200 grand flipping houses right now. Like, he's smart. And these kids are starting to learn that, like, education is not congruent with salary. Right. And so a big piece of it too is, like, these kids who are, like, striving and being pushed in school and being pulled apart to get A's, like, hours and hours of homework. Like, here it's really bad. Like, my kids, they were studying till 3 a.m. Yeah, it's horrible. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I'm out. Like, I'm not doing this. And so my whole thing though is, like, you can be straight A students and you will make $50,000 a year. You can be D students or not make it or fail math 3 times. Like, Catholic Central, go to Low. I had to go to Low to get my summer school. I'm a multimillionaire. I want to tell kids, like, you have your own geniuses, embrace that, create whatever you have through your own genius. Don't worry about things that you're not good at. Somebody at some point in your life, you can pay for that. I pay for awesome CPAs. I pay for awesome tax strategists. I know math better now. And the math I need now does not have to do with algebra that I couldn't freaking pass because I couldn't get it around myself, right? It's like, why are we teaching stuff that is like, okay, if you're going to be an engineer, maybe you need that. Then you go to that track. But teaching all kids algebra and calculus and
it's insane. It's insane.
When's the last time you ever used that? Like,
Never.
There was a couple kids here one night with my kids' friends, and they were like, "Who's taking honors math?" And I just said, "Okay, we're going to stop this conversation." I like literally stopped. I said, "I'm going to tell you right now. You all can have A's and be in honors math and be a total burnout failure. So don't think that what you're doing in school is going to be an indicator of your success, because you're going to be wrongly and sadly disappointed." Like, totally. I said, and I gave him the example, like, I failed math. I hated Miss Hillman anyways, so she's probably not alive anymore, but she failed me twice with a 29. Like, seriously, I needed a 30 to pass. Anyways, and then then I went to summer school at Low and I got an A because I connected with the teacher, right? There's like, there's so many things that like, there's great teachers, there's awesome connections, there's good learning, and then there's like just stupidity, right? And I feel like arrogance and stupidity, there's a fine line between the two. So anyways, I go off on tangents, but I think in my heart that we're just not going the right way with education. I love education, and I feel like there's so much opportunity in it to just have so many incredible experiences with education. But our public school system is not.
Now, do you see more private schools in the U.S.? Like, is it becoming more popular over there?
Yeah, private schools are everywhere in the U.S., but they, again, kind of have the same adherence, right? They have to like be part of the state. So my big issue is two things. So like, we were in public school and we were getting letters from CPS about us taking our kids out. First of all, they're my kids. I don't give a shit. You're not in charge of my kids, number one. Number two, my kids are going to Antarctica. I don't care if they're missing freaking whatever they're learning in science this week. Like, they are with penguins, learning about the ecology, being taught about ice and ages and all kinds of stuff. Like, I'm not going to be concerned about the 9 days they missed. Right. So they actually bring you to court in the US. If you miss more than 20 days, you have to go to court and like tell them what you've done as a parent, because, you know, that's like a failed parent initiative. Anyways, I took my kids out. I'm like, we're done. Bye. Like, Zoe's now in homeschool, you know, well, it's called hybrid. Yep. So I'm just like, no one's going to tell me what to do. I'm at that point in my life. I'm 50. I don't care.
For you.
So
good for you.
More people should be like that.
I'm trying to convince.
It's just hard.
It's harder. The moms are really like, my wife will, like, when I bring up unschooling and stuff like that, it's just like no chance. It's like so extreme to her.
Well, I think there's two reasons. So one is because a lot of the responsibility probably she thinks will land on her, but it doesn't. If you get the right program, I have to make sure she's on track, but she has teachers. This program is so awesome. They have a symposium. They do workshops every week. The teachers like talking to them about like problem solving and solutionizing, and like, it's incredible. But when you think of homeschool, you think, oh my gosh, like, this is a weird, the road that's narrow is never the road that's widely accepted. Right. Okay. So like, if you're going to go in the narrow road, you're going to get the weird looks, and you're going to get the like, 100%. Because 98% of the population is going to go with the wide road, the easy road, right? Sure. The 1 to 2%, which is also why they say, like, entrepreneurs, if you want to be like the 1%, you can't do what the other 99 are doing, because you cannot be the 1% if you're following the wide road. It's just not going to happen. So it's hard. People think you're crazy. You lose friends, you lose family. People think you're nuts, right? Sure. But I'm okay with being nuts at this point in my life. I'm like, hey,
like, you for you. You gotta keep going.
Like, you be my friend or you don't. Like, it doesn't matter to me, you know, and I'm not going to push my initiatives on anybody, but if they're going to ask me, I'm going to tell them why I made the choice I made, right? 100%. And education, and I think intellect, the more you know about stuff, the easier it is for you not to accept the norm.
So, for sure. So true.
I think it's just people don't know, right? And so what you don't know becomes what you don't know.
Yeah, like for me, I went to university and then I did my MBA, not because I wanted to, just to kind of have it, right? My parents kind of pushed me into it, but
for sure,
I didn't learn a thing. I didn't learn anything, literally not a thing. And I've learned more on YouTube in probably
Yep.
1 or 2 weeks than I learned in my entire schooling
Right.
education. It's like,
Which tells you something,
tells
you know
you-
what I mean? Like,
tells
which
you-
clearly tells you,
yeah,
right?
it's just a waste of time, in my opinion. And for most people, it's a complete waste of time, unless you're going to be a
Yes.
doctor or a lawyer or accountant. Other than
Right.
that,
Like if you're a doctor, you can't be a doctor without going to school.
Of
I get
course,
it, right?
sure.
If you need a designation, a CPA,
Exactly.
a JD, a law degree, yes,
Sure.
I 100% believe it. But like, you know what we need right now? We need people in trades.
100%.
Man, there are businesses here for sale every day that come across my desk, and I'm like, I wish I knew how to be a plumber, because
You're right.
these companies are making millions of dollars, and you know what? They're all retiring. All these
You're
people,
right.
reason for selling,
You're right.
retiring, reason for selling, retiring, electricians, plumbing. These companies, there's a company here for sale, $1.5 million net profit a year.
Wow.
I want to know, like, okay,
How much?
which one of my kids can do this in 15 months?
Yeah.
I'm literally like,
Oh, you're right.
my son was like, you want me to go instead of going to med school? I'm like, look, buddy, if you want to be a plumber, mom will support you. Like, let's go. But I think that's the thing, is like, the stuff that's for sale now, the opportunity, because everyone's saying, oh, Julie, there's so much opportunity in business right now. Yeah, the stuff that's the opportunity are these boomers retiring. It's a huge market of businesses available in the US. Like, if you want to invest in the US, right now is the time to do it. There are so many businesses for sale.
Really?
But again, there's these, like these trade businesses here. It's insane. Like, if you even just go bizbuysell.com and you look at businesses for sale in the US, cash flowing businesses. I'm not talking about startups.
Right.
I don't do startups.
Right.
I only do cash flowing businesses. They're like EBITDA 500, a million, 2 million, 3 million, seed companies, all kinds of stuff that like people don't want to do anymore, right? Like animal feed. Who wants to do animal feed? But they're making $3 million net a year. I'm like, I'll figure out how to make animal feed. Like, what does Julie have to do? Right? Like, yeah. And so, but you want to know your business. Like, I don't want people to go in businesses they don't know about, because they will fail, right? But I'm just saying, like, isn't it better to teach kids, like, here's a business for sale. Let's get you the training. Work with this owner. Transition that business. You're making cash flow year one, and you probably pay $5,000 for a trade school versus 500 for going, you know what I mean? Like, it's just the return on investment, the thinking, it's rewiring our entire brain about how we think about everything, right? Yeah.
100%.
And again, people are going to be like, this girl's off her rocker. But I truly believe in what I'm telling you. Like,
so do I.
I think there's a lot of opportunity here to just do better with what we have, and not create these situations for our kids and their families of constant struggle. Like, you don't have to struggle. There's ways to fix this.
For sure. So what's next for you? I know. Is travel at the top of your list right now?
Yeah, so travel's definitely the top of my list. I still have some targets I want to hit for like lifestyle targets. Like, I really want to move to Florida because it's very much up my alley.
So do I.
With political, like everything, right? Yeah. So also it's tax-free. The state is tax-free. So on top of like the federal stuff, we would have state-free taxes, which is, we're only paying 8%, but only is too much for me. You know what I mean? Like, why? I also want oceanfront living. It's something I've been really wanting my entire life.
Where
so
would you
I will
move
get
in
it.
Florida? Where would you move?
So we have two targeted areas, like outside Tampa, Sarasota area, or outside the Miami proper. Like, I don't want Miami, but I like Aventura, Hallandale, 10X, like where Grant's at. That area I love, but it'll depend on when we move, because for kids, I think Tampa, Sarasota, it's more family driven. And then like Miami, like higher end teenagers, they have more opportunity for work, and it's very diverse, which is great too, because my husband's, Hawaiian, my daughter, my kids look mixed. Like, it's really, they would feel very at home. We love embracing diversity in our family, and we feel like sometimes we're put in situations where it's very not diverse because of our income level or whatever. And we don't like that at all. We want to embrace diversity. We love people. We love learning about people. We want to know about all the cultures, right? Like, I just love teaching them about everything, all the people. So I want to just make sure that they have the opportunity to like be somewhere where they feel 100% comfortable all the time. and we've had some issues with that here, for them.
Really?
So so I'm very attentive now, more so than ever, about where the next move will be. I'm even more strategic. I wasn't as strategic when I moved here because I really didn't know. And now I wish we would have not really moved in the areas we live in, but that's a whole other story for another day. But I love diversity. I'm an immigrant. My parents are full Italian. We didn't speak English, right? I mean, so like, I love the embracing of that work ethic and the values of family and just, so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Julie, I know we've taken a lot of your time. That was very enlightening. I'm very excited to get this video out there because I think a lot of people need to see it, and I think a lot of women need to see what's coming out of your mouth because you have some amazing insight, and I think it's eye-opening to a lot of people, and I think it's very educational. I think it could help millions of people. So good for you.
Well, impact is what's next for us. So when you ask me for what's next, it's definitely impact. It's why I do these podcasts. It's why I am always signing up to, as much as I can, to be, on podcasts or on radio stations, television stations. Like whenever they ask me to come out, I think it's important to have somebody talk about what's really happening. Like so many people get to this level and then they go quiet. I don't know if you ever noticed, like they make so much money and then they're like, I'm like, no way. I don't want to do that because I feel like I have so much knowledge and information that I can share to help people. It's my duty, like to help them. You know what I mean? Yep. I feel like I didn't get here because no one helped us, right? So I feel really compelled to impact. And so I never feel like it's a waste of my time. I feel like if one person changes their life or their kid's life or the trajectory of their family from something they heard from me, then I'm good, right? Absolutely. Like then I'm at least giving back. So, So I appreciate the opportunity, to be on your podcast. I super appreciate that I was the first woman. That makes me so happy because I am trying to empower females, especially in the real estate space. There's just not enough of us. I'm also trying to empower moms, like, to take back that control and be who you're meant to be. Because we often put ourselves last. It's just part of who we are. So, so I just really appreciate Marcello, reaching out to me. I love him and Sandra and, and everybody in Windsor, and just really feel compelled.
Julie, you're the perfect guest for the Gold Awakening because we believe we're in the age of awakening, and someone's going to watch the show and you're going to open up so many doors for them that, we covered today. And when you're in Windsor, we'd love to have you back again in the studio live. That would be awesome.
Yeah. I do come back often. My mom's there, my brother's there, my Nona. So, my dad, we come back and visit. So anytime.
And what can we plug so we could put underneath the podcast? Any links? So it's, I believe.
So if they want to learn about like real estate, or we have some free resources on our website, thejulieroy.com. They can find me there. I'm on socials everywhere under Julie Roy or the Julie Roy, Insta, Facebook, LinkedIn. You saw, we found each other kind of there too. But the book, they can buy the book on Amazon. It's in Canada, Australia, wherever. They can find that on the website too. So like, it's more just information, right? Like any information I can give them. There's a downloadable little quick real estate guide I actually created with a Canadian guy. It's free on my website. Like, so they can at least just even learn, okay, this is an option, right? And then, the book's like $20 or something, my Amazon book, but it gives you kind of our history, how we were brought up as immigrants, work ethic wise, how I started the loan, that kind of stuff. I just hope it's inspirational to someone, right? Like that's the goal. Yep. So it's all cheap. I mean, unless they want to invest real estate with us, that's where it gets a little more expensive. But even there, we do it for the people. Like everybody here charges like 75-25 splits or 80-20. We do 90-10. Wow. Like we're really doing it because we want to offer opportunity to people like that I wouldn't have had, right? As a young person or so anyway, so they can find me on all that. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thanks again, Julie.
Yeah, thank you guys. Sorry for taking up so much time.
Oh, it was awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Ciao. Take care. Right. No problem. I'm in. Thanks, guys.
Take care.